next to the matchmaking, there will be a green finance fair with solutions for corporates as well as private individuals. And there will also be a program with sessions and workshops, especially for startups, SMEs, and privates as well. So there will be one on investors storytelling, and there will be one on reporting, so sustainability reporting. So you can take a look at the agenda. I will show you real quickly. I don't know. Now it works. Okay, so I wanted to show you the agenda. I will just quickly share my browser so I can show you. Here it is. So you can now see the event agenda. It will start at 10:30 with an opening session, 2 impulse talks, one from Michael Altrichter and one from Ulrike Raben-Makolle. Then there will be a panel discussion with the title, Is Green the New Competitive Edge? Then there will be a networking session for lunch. And afterwards, there will be the target group workshops. The link is in the presentation. You will get the presentation and just apply for the workshops you're interested in. Yes. So back to the presentation. So first thing, so you completed on B2Match your application forms. This information was especially for the jury process, and due to private policy reasons, we deleted all the information on your B2Match profiles, and we need you to share some new information. So it's like most of them is multiple choice, a short description, and you have to upload your pitch deck again. Very important, some of you uploaded a German pitch deck. It's very important that the pitch deck is in English because a lot of the investors only speak English. I can show you. Here you can find the link where you can log into your existing profiles. When you open this link, it's the registration link, and you can see here the login button. You click on it and you log into your profile again. Yes, and please complete your organization profiles until May 2nd. There will be, if you open your account or your dashboard, there will be 3 dots next to your organization logo. Just click the three dots and you can edit your organization profile. But attention, only the owner of the organization can edit your organization profile. So if there are your co-founder as well in the B2Match registered, only the owner can complete it. Yes, on an investor meeting, as you know, there will be at least 2 investor meetings for each venture, and they will last for 45 minutes and will be set until May 2nd as well. Your matches will appear in your B2Match agenda when they are fixed. So most of them will happen on May 14th at the Green 100 on site between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Some of them will be online on May 14th, and some will be at Impact Days on the 12th or the 13th. I'll come back. Okay, Linda will come back to this again. Yes, so from May 2nd on, you will also be able to request your own additional meetings with investors. So you will have a tab. I will show you in a minute where you can find all the investors in the matchmaking. So you can click the specific investor you're interested in and request an additional meeting. Need to change again. Yes. No, it's the wrong browser. It's the wrong browser, but okay. So here it is. I will just pick one of your profiles to show you. So that's your dashboard. You can see it here. And here on the tabs, you have a tab called Matchmaking Investors. And when you click it, you can see all the investors in the pool. There is always the organization. Here it's Resutech. And below you can find the investors from this organization. And if you want to request a meeting, just click the person. And from May 2nd on, you will be free to request meetings. So from this time on, you can see, you can click here and make a meeting with the specific investor. But this will only be possible when your curated matches are already in the system. Back to the presentation again. Okay, if co-founders will be at the matchmaking or will be joining the investors meetings, please make sure they also register via B2Match. We need them in the system. So here you got the link again. And please maybe just write an informal email that your co-founder will be also joining so we can take them into our contact list as well. So, and I think that's it from my side. And floor is yours, Linda.
Should I come Sorry, here? Miriam.
Yes.
Can we have the link in the chat, for example? For
the registration link?
Yes, for the co-founders.
Sure, let's do that. I'll do this. Okay, my colleague will do it. So, and we need your presentation, Linda.
I will just go on. Maybe we put on the screen with the investors, and I go along that, and I talk. Okay. We look at the investors, right?
Yes, but it's so just for information, it's only a few of the investors. Yes. There will be about 40 there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, can you guys see me actually, or do you see the screen? Do they see the screen, or do they see?
I think they can see you as well and the screen. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. So I'm coming here. I'm looking at the camera. I'm looking at you. Hi to everyone. I'm Linda from Impact Hub. I'm handling the investors community, the Impact Capital Circle, in Impact Hub, which means we are trying to create a community of investors which are looking at impact, and all of you are in green businesses, so you all do impact. So we just thought it would be the best thing to start working together with this community and bring those investors into meetings with you on the 14th of May. I'm going to talk a bit about the investor selections. Maybe I'll browse a bit through this, again with the disclaimer that these are just a few of them, but I'm just going to try to explain you the categories of investors that we try to bring in so that you understand the logic behind it. We looked at all of your pitch decks, all of your businesses, and of course they are a big span of industries, of stages, and so on. So we try to find also a varied, let's say, a diverse pool of investors that would meet you, and they could be people like, for example, Erste Social which is on the screen now. Este Social Finance, this is a loan provider. They have a special product, which is a loan product, but it's cheaper than what is on the market. So that's kind of one type of investor which is going to be present. So it's, and I think Lena will touch on that later on, the type of capital or of money that you can access, right? That's one of the options, a loan. There's also crowdfunding available. There are a few solutions, companies that will come and they will meet some of you that are fitting their model and that you're also probably could make sense for you to work with them. So crowdfunding, loans, family offices, angel investors, this is something that we did, we were missing last year and now we have a bit more of that. For example, the first name that you see on this list, just as an example, this is a person which is investing up to 150K in a company, and it is about smart money. So angels are about people that are giving relatively smaller tickets, but they help you with connections, they help you with industry contacts and so on. So just for you to have a bit of a background when you see a match with an angel, this is the type of relation that you can look into. I won't touch too much on the relations that are building up with investors, because I think that's the biggest part of Lena's part, but just to give you an idea of the diversity. But the biggest chunk of investors that you will see here, and I think we have some, if I go down, yeah, we'll stay with Aves Gründungsfonds because this is an Austrian company, and they are investment funds. So this is venture capital. They are looking for innovative ideas. They would like to contribute with equity, so shares. Yeah, I think we will have what you will see this year, and I think Austria is really special in the whole European landscape with such an event. I don't think there is anything like that, at least from Germany to the east, is that you will see all the relevant impact venture capital being present on the 14th on a European level. So it's a lot of German companies coming, German investment funds. There's Dutch investment funds. Of course, there's also things from Austria and from Central Eastern Europe. I just gave you an example of what is now in the system, but there will be a lot of them. And in principle, you can count, as Miriam said, on about 40 names that are there. They are not all fitting your profile, so you will only get to see 2 or 3 of those, which we think are the best connections for you. But of course, you can, look at the other guys after you get your 2-3 meetings proposals and see if maybe they want to meet you and talk about potential investment or collaboration with you. Next, the matching logic.
Point. If you click on the organization and not on the person, you can see some more additional information, and it will be only for you. So you will see like the ticket size, the verticals of the specific investor, and some more information to make your choices.
I will go on the next point that I wanted to touch on, and also I'll take a question from the chat that I see here because it goes together. The logic of the matching, so the logic of the pairs that you will receive. We looked at, let's say, a few parameters that are important for the matches, for the buckets we created, so to say. So we looked at the stage you are in, we looked at the traction you're in, we looked at the vertical, so the business that you're planning. We looked at whether you are providing a software or a hardware solution or a technology, and also on the investment thesis of our investors, and we try to create matches like that. And I had a question on that on the chat. Crowdfunding starts, it's an example, and I think it's relevant. Crowdfunding starts with Conda when you have revenues above 250K at the moment. So it's just the example of how to match with Conda. When does it make sense to talk to Conda, for example? I think talking to Conda is not just about how much money you make, the selection on whether, or the logic on whether you talk to someone like Conda is not just on you can comply with the requirements, which is existing sales, but it's also, do you think you would get financed through Conda, and do you think it makes sense for your business to go with Conda, right? These are also things that you should take into consideration. So that's not just, from their perspective, that maybe if you're too small, they're not going to finance you. The question is, do you want to get financed through Conda? But that's also a part of what Lena will talk about. And yeah, to answer that question, someone like Conda and all the investors which are there, they like to get in a relation early on with a potential investment case. So even if you are not at 250K right now, but you do have a business model which could be financed through Conda, it makes sense to talk to them because things will go very slow. And I think that's also a part that we should make very transparent to you. From the moment you have an initial contact with a potential investor, to the moment when you get that money, there's quite a few months that are passing. So it is really worth keeping a relation. And I like one of the participants in Green 100 is saying you have to always pitch and you have to always talk to investors. So yes, if you do have a business case which fits with Conda, even if you're not at that level, but you are showing them that you have a business which makes sense, then yes, you should think about talking to Conda. I hope I answered that, but yeah, you can write in the chat if there's more questions about it. So just going back to the matching logic, we have 40 investors. We have about 50 companies which are coming to the Green 100. We're looking at all the parameters which make sense, which characterize your businesses and the parameters which characterize the investors. And we try to see where there's a fit and we create that match. And I think the idea is every meeting that you have there that is accepted by the investor, because that's also something I want to specify. You will get a lot of proposals. You might even get, in average, 3 meetings proposed rather than 2, which is the minimum for some of the businesses. We cannot promise that to all of them, but you will probably get in average 3. There is a chance that that meeting is not accepted by the investor for a specific reason. They either talked to you before, they saw you, you are just in negotiations with them. So something incremental, we don't want to create anything redundant. We want to create new connections for you, or for you to revisit someone that you saw a year ago, but something changed in your business. So take those 3 meetings as proposed. Hopefully they will turn into reality. Probably 80% of them will turn into reality. But if something is canceled, do not get upset. It's probably there's an objective reason why that is. It's maybe we don't know that they don't like actually to invest anymore in biodiversity, and therefore they would not talk to you. So it's just new information that comes out of that. Everything that you receive, it's either it's a yes or a no. It's still good for you. It's added value because it helps you understand who are actually your real investors and your real partners for discussion. Yeah, so I would say this is what I wanted to say about the way we created the matches. You will see them before the 2nd of May. You will ask for more meetings. Please be free to do that. People will be there. I think they are only available for the startups, right? For meetings. So it's not like you have a preferred let's say, role in this event. You're not like a normal participant.
No. So maybe that's an important information. So only the investors can see your profiles and the information you put on your profiles, and only you can see the investors. So it's exclusive in both ways.
So if these guys, after they get their set meetings with you, they still have 1 hour, they will use that hour to meet you rather than other participants, because through the application, the other participants will not be able to access that 1 hour. Yeah, so this is just about what will happen before the 14th, and then on the 14th, I think Lena will talk more. You will be prepared to be having quite a bit of adrenaline kick. It will be very exciting. And we want to be a part of that and understand what was your experience. So I just want to talk about a bit about the evaluation, or the way we look at what we created. We really try to, our objective is that you get deals done at the end of the day. So whatever you're looking for, we hope to help you get there. Of course, this is just the beginning of a relation, right? So it's the first meeting that we support you to have. You have to go back to them. You have to follow up. You have to show them additional information and make them excited to kind of get information from you, and at the right time invest. But we want to be a part of this process. We want to understand. We want to understand how you felt about the day, the meeting, the setup, the technical part. So was it okay? Was it noisy? Did you have enough, let's say, the right data so you can tell them, or that you know who is in front of you so you can talk on their language and so on. On one hand, was it an adequate meeting, right? Was it the right investor that you are looking for? And then, so we will try to collect feedback from you on spot. We really want to understand so that we can improve. We try to do this every year. We do it for a few years already, and we change a bit the setup each time based on what happened before. We really try to improve it, and we want to understand from you what went well and what didn't work. But as we said, we think that investment is a process, it's not a meeting, it's not a one-time thing. And we know that this is the beginning, hopefully, of a relation you have with that potential investor. So within the next month, hopefully, if that is a good match, you'll keep on talking to them. We just want to understand where you are in those discussions. So we'll probably come back to you in a few months with a question asking, simple, not getting into confidential information or any, because of course this is very, very intimate space, let's say, of communication, you with the investor. But we just want to understand, are you still in discussions with them? If not, why? They didn't want to talk to you anymore, you didn't find them a fit and so on. So just try to also put us in this loop or see us as a part of what will happen to you next. Yeah, so I think, is there any other question on the matchmaking or the logic behind the pairs?
Or B2Match.
Or B2Match, yeah. Of course, we will have, there will always be someone that will be able to answer specific technical questions within the next month before the 14th, if you can't log in, if you don't see whatever you should see in there. But if there's anything right now, we can answer, maybe. Maybe just a bit about the setup, because we didn't make that very clear, Miriam. The way it works is they are specific on the 14th, on the day of the event. We do have specific tables with numbers and specific time slots. So what you will receive there is, I'm meeting Planet A, investment fund, at 12 o'clock at table 15. So this is what you will receive as a setup will be there. And I can tell you, last year we didn't miss one meeting with this setup. So people know about it and investors are there and they know how the rules are and how they work.
There's one question in the chat. The matching is based on the information already sent or the new information we are filling in the platform?
So the matching is based on, of course, what we know so far about you and your business and what you have provided to us. We have to do it now because, of course, the investors need to know and they need to respond on whether they want to meet you or not. But what is important to say, you can always update the pitch deck and the information about you within the next weeks until the event, right? Until the second.
It should be until the 2nd because
So next week, yeah.
Not only from your side,
Yeah.
so the investors can also scroll through the ventures and maybe contact you from their side.
Yeah.
So it would be good that there is some more additional information, and as the old information has been deleted, would be good when it's completed by May 2nd.
Yeah, but so you can access that, you can still change it, but I guess the profile of your company does not change significantly so that the match is something completely different. Maybe you have new proofs of traction that you should put in there. So definitely this information should be there. Everything about your company, which is current, should be in there. But I assume the logic of the match will not change very much with the new pitch decks that you're providing. Yeah.
I can quickly show you the information. It's quite short. It's not too long. It should take you half an hour maximum. So edit organization, and if you scroll down, you can see the new questions here. It's called matchmaking venture information, and as I said before, it's for investors' eyes only. So this information can only be seen by the investors. It's a few questions, most of them multiple choice. We think it should be done quickly. Yes.
Yeah, I guess that the most important thing is to update your pitch deck, because the pitch deck is the basis of the discussion with your investors and is the thing that investors look at. I cannot promise realistically that everyone will read the pitch deck and all the details that you have in there before, but they would at least know what you do before they meet you. And you will have to go in that discussion somehow through the pitch deck logic and tell them what you feel that is relevant. But this is more on, I think, the content of what we will talk today. Yeah, so if there are no more questions.
Not yet.
Guys, I'm going to be there and I'm going to chase you all. with feedbacks and so on, and trying to see how we can also get into the content of what you do so that we can support you get better and get investment ready. But yeah, that's a different story. And now I think the bigger story that we're going to talk today is really how is that meeting going to go and how you need to prepare for it. Yeah. Okay, so we change the presentation.
Yes, but I can already say hello. Some of you, actually half of you sitting in the room, I know already. So I'm wondering what can I actually bring to you. You know me, and you know the basics of getting investment. Business and investment ready. Or you got investment already. But still, who am I for the rest? I used to work for the Impact Hub since started until I got my kid 3-4 years ago. And I've done the investment ready program. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs from here to getting investment ready or getting these first steps done, so to speak. I co-organized the Impact Day since inception. So from there, I went managing director of the Impact Hub. And now I'm actually working for a little impact fund, the first impact fund in Austria, where we invested in 12 companies. So I kind of switched sides. But I wanted to tell you that I have been always on the entrepreneur side for most of my professional life so far. And I've seen a lot of presentations. So we can talk about what is good in a presentation also. Today, while this beautiful slides get up, I'm also serving in the board of SENA, the Social Entrepreneurship Network Austria, which anyone out of Austria should notice. Our website is still open. We are working on a rebranding process, but we are also working on advocacy for social entrepreneurs, for impactful entrepreneurs, and we actually managed to get some of our wishes into the Regierungsprogramm of our new Regierung, and we are very proud about it. And try to also make sure that we will actually do something about it. And things that include creating a fund for entrepreneurs with an impact orientation, creating more social impact fund, social impact bonds, sorry. And also, last but not least, how to call it, commercial break, so to speak, is the verified social enterprise label, which is actually brought to you by AWS. So you apply at AWS for the verified social enterprise label. It's not so difficult to get. It just takes a bit of time, and you need to have an impact report or an impact management system in place, and then you become a verified social enterprise. And that would be great if you are interested and you think your company actually would fall under such a definition of what a enterprise is. That you actually get this label, because the more label owners we have, the more the Austrian state sees that social entrepreneurs are taking room in this country, and maybe then we will have better frameworks. Yeah, so SENA and verified social enterprise label, maybe it's something for you guys. Of course, also for you guys being part online today, but I know that some of you are not based in Austria, so for you it might not be that relevant, but for everyone being an Austrian company registered in Austria. So now the slides are up. I told you already about who am I, and now the goals for today, you heard already a bit about it. We want to inform you what an investment process looks like, and actually want to know in the next moment also, what do you know already about it, what investors want to hear, and how to prepare for the meetings at the Green 100. Those are the pre-goals for today. We have time until 1. We are a small group here. We are, I don't know how many online. Can you tell us?
29 persons.
29 persons already, so we will see. And depending on your questions and on your involvement, it will actually take up to 1, or we will make it maybe short. We will have a break in around half an hour, a short break, and then let's go through the rest so that we can actually grab lunch afterwards, so everyone is free to do whatever they want to do. So now about you guys, what sectors do we have present? I have been also, can I disclaim that I have been part of the tour? So now you know. I've seen not all of you, but 56 out of the 80 something presentations. I don't remember all of you. I remembered when we talked about who is coming yesterday. But I know there's a lot of ventures in the energy space. Anyone in the room? And also, you guys online, you can also, how do you call it? Do a thumbs up or erase the hands
yeah.
exactly, so we
Yeah,
can actually
there's
see
one.
Questions.
people in the energy room. How in the energy sector? What are you doing?
Chemical energies. We're doing sustainable
Okay,
aviation
Rose,
fuel
questions?
free
Yeah.
market, but we're in a process step to produce a chemical process for developing the sustainable aviation fuel.
Sustainable aviation fuel. Okay, so you were one of the ones that I didn't. To screen, yeah, very interesting, yeah.
Two
yes.
of them are online.
Yes,
Yes.
what would they do? You can write us in the chat. Or actually maybe also tell us, maybe we hear you, we didn't try that yet.
We do it here. So Igor, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, sure. I raised the hand because I thought it's a voting thing. You're cosmetics, and cosmetics is covering solar panels on big scale with a special foil, and that foil condensates water, and it operates in the deserts. So we actually generate water in a very spot where water is super scarce, and our benefit is that the panels stay clean, and that is a high economical pain point and a problem that we solve for the solar industry by generating water at the spot.
Okay, nice. That was already a nice presentation of what is the problem, what's the solution. And
Angelos
is also in the
also
energy.
online and
Nice.
raised his hand.
If you can hear me. Well, it's kind of like tangential to the energy sector. We are doing climate simulations for buildings and cities. So yeah, calculating solar access, thermal effects, and wind effects of urban configuration. So definitely related to the energy sector. We're moving into the energy calculation of buildings soon. So that's kind of like how it's relevant.
Okay, and then we have maybe some, I see at least two ventures in the circularity space. Minimis the meta here in the room.
And he's green best with green real estate and climate proof and green real estate. He wrote in
Okay,
the chat.
okay. So we had energy, we had circularity,
Autonomous mobile robots,
we have sustainable products,
agri-tech.
we have agri-tech, we had some tech, exactly food tech, we also had. Yeah, so basically it's quite a wide range of entrepreneurs here being present, and you will also meet yourself hopefully later today or at the Green Bear. And I always recommend always to be connected also amongst the entrepreneurs. They have also talked to investors, they know stuff about investors, so talk to each other what you all guys learned about whatever investors you might know or you might find in this B2 match or on that day. Can we go back to the slides?
Sure, sorry.
No matter. So who already raised an investment here in the room? Valerie, you also raised an investment? No, I haven't. You haven't? But you didn't need it, but you got some credit. Some grants only, loans.
And then we did the
Crowd. I did crowd. Oh, okay. So then two investments here. And what about you as well? So you guys somehow, because also if you got a loan or a grant, you go through a similar process in a way, right? You need to present yourself, you need to convince someone else. We will go through these steps still, step by step, but yeah. Who was already at the Green 100 last year? Anyone?
We had online Florian Kraut, Angelus Kronis, Verdina Schwab, and Elias Bohms and Traveling.
Who already received investment, yeah. And maybe someone was here last year, but anyhow, I've been last year at the Green 100 as an investor. It's really short meetings. I promise you, I did not read the pitch decks that I've seen. Just it's not, there's no time, right? You see a lot of pitch decks, you make a lot of connections. Definitely bring, but we will talk about it. Come prepared that they are not prepared. However, you might be surprised, and they are, and then they will dive into the very specific questions already. So you need to have the range, but you anyways know everything, so that I wouldn't wonder. I wouldn't worry about. So now that we clarified who is in the room, still don't know your names. Actually, at least the names of the people in the room I need to know, so I can talk to you. Valerie, you are Valerie. Can you make a short introduction round? And I'm sorry for the guys online. We will not be able to see all of you, but you can also introduce yourself into the chat to everyone in the chat or in the online space. So Valerie, do you want to tell us quickly one sentence? Perfect time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. We're in the space of e-mobility. So we brought out the first self-charging electric trolley back 2016. And we've diversified our portfolio since then with many different mobility products and accessories, bringing new technology to the banking business to get more people to buy.
My name is Marcus. I'm together with Andreas here. We develop ESG ratings for SMEs and help them to measure their sustainability, impact, and communicate.
You are Marcus and your colleague is Andrea.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Tom.
Tom?
Our spin-off Sisyphus, we're based in Leoben. We're working on CO2 recycling with fuels and chemicals.
Okay.
And Michaela and co-founder of Matter. We have a circular economy mattress solution for hotels.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Stefan. I'm co-founder of Minimist. We build a platform that automatically sells secondhand items for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you.
Yeah.
That's quite.
Okay. Happy that I actually did make this round. That's for the handshake. Yeah, so what does an investment process look like for someone who might have not known? And sorry, Stefan, you have seen this slide already a couple of months ago in my previous workshop about investment readiness. First, and actually, I need to make a disclaimer, it's not really necessarily looking like this, but these are the steps that you have to go through eventually and maybe in this chronological order. So obviously you need to prepare a financial plan. You need to know what is your ask. You need to make calculation. You need also to have an understanding of your valuation in there, because that will help you, or you will need it anyways in any talks with investors, but it will also help you to understand what range, what type of investors are actually the right ones for you. And in order to actually talk to investors, you will need to have a business plan ready. You will need to have your pitch deck, your financial plan, all sorts of documents. Later, you will need a due diligence room where you even disclose a lot of information about your company, legal documents, about how you're set up, or whatever very important agreements that you made with partners. If we want to talk about the due diligence room, we can talk about it at the end of today, because that's already very specific. But if you have any questions, we can talk about it as well. Basically, you need to be ready to have all the information someone could ask you for before you talk to investors, right? But a lot of times I see actually when people meet someone and they talk to potential investors and then they come up with the information and the pitch deck and so on and so forth. So that is also happening in real life. And we will talk about what a presentation should entail. But I think also in today's world, there's a lot of information out there in the internet. You can talk to Perplexity or ChatGPT, they will know. We started 2010 based on a guy called Guy Kawasaki and his 10 slides pitch deck. I think that is still, even if it's 2025 now, a very good starting point. Basically having 10 slides, all the most relevant aspects of your pitch or of your business. But you can look that up to go more into detail. We will cover some surface of it today. Yeah, and eventually you will come up with you will have met an investor randomly, as I said, or you will also come up with a long list of investors who you could actually approach. And then you approach them, try to get to a meeting, then you have a meeting, present whatever you can present, ask, answer all the questions. And then your goal would always be a follow-up, right? Sometimes maybe not immediately, maybe you will get some homework to do, so to speak. Sometimes you have to reach a milestones that the investor wants to see. And then the follow-up will take longer, but actually very often some relationships that become an investment are formed 1 or 2 years before or so. So I see also the long-term relationship building is actually key. Once you have gotten to the point where the investor says, okay, yes, actually I'm interested, you would go into the due diligence phase. You would have a term sheet eventually in that phase, usually. You will also be able to talk about the term sheet later, but what is the most important right now is that you have at least an understanding of what terms you want to avoid or not. And then it very often depends on how hungry you are or how needy you are for the money, so to speak, whether you can accept all the terms. You have to accept all the terms, or you can actually be more creating the terms by yourself. And then eventually you go through this due diligence and negotiation process. It's a bit of a tricky thing because you somehow get screened very well. They ask you a lot of questions and you always are the person who needs to kind of give answers. At the same time, you're on the negotiation table with the investors and you somehow need to stay in this position of I'm an independent person. I can also always walk away from this group. So I think this is sometimes a tricky moment of how you actually manage this relationship. And we'll talk about what I find important there also in a bit. Yeah, then we will draft a contract if all goes well. Or like one side says, sorry, no, there is a red flag here or there. But if then you finally will sign the shareholder agreement, this is, and then get the money transferred, this is your closing, you can celebrate. And then our story ends here, but actually the actual relationship starts there. And I don't know how many trainers I've seen using this metaphor of it's like a marriage, but it is such a true metaphor that I will also use it. You will, depending on the type of investor, be in a very long-term relationship, maybe for almost forever until the company goes bankrupt. Or maybe and you get out of the company and other investors get in, or the investor gets out and other investors come in. So it can, if you have an actual investor, and you're, kind of as a shareholder, then you are there for a longer journey together. Usually it would last up to 3 to 10 years or so, depending on what type of investor. That is, of course, not the same case if you have only a banker or a grant provider. They have a bit of a more different relationship with you, obviously. But anyway, everyone got a loan already or a grant? Yes, that's. Yeah. I'm just checking not to see where we are at, so to speak, right? Yeah, but this long-term relationship is what you get ready for. And what is relevant? How do you really need to prepare for that whole process? Not only for that one meeting at the Green 100 or any other meetings that might come up, but generally speaking, it's always good to start early. At the moment, fundraising takes a long time. It used to be a rather easier task before 2020 or 2023, actually, is when it went south. I think everyone gets crazy still. The markets are even more volatile than 2 years ago. A lot of companies in Australia go insolvent at the moment. So there's a lot of investors that actually say, okay, the cash that I have available, I need for the company that I already invested in. Or I will only very strategically invest. So the very opportunistic random investments are not taking place so much at the moment anymore. Also, the valuations are not as high as they used to be, which might be also a natural thing. But just really saying, if I need money next year, I need to have actually my preparation done by today and not by autumn. This is the only emphasis that I want to make, that you really start early. that you plan in time, so you actually can stay flexible. You don't need to walk away with a guy that you don't really like, or a girl, most likely, I guess. And obviously, the more book, the better. The more advanced you are in your journey, and the more traction you have, the more you can show that whatever you do actually sells, the better. That's the obvious. We talked already about the documents that we have, and I think it's by far the most important. The pitch deck also to hook someone, to make someone listen to you, but then later the financials are actually the most key. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that have beautiful pitch decks and super random Excel spreadsheets that look super basic. They can look basic, but they need to have proper assumptions in there, and they need to have calculations that one can follow. So if everyone talks about pitch decks, I talk about financial plans. Please also make sure that you have your financials in a good shape. One page, a video, whatever you have, websites, you can choose basically. I don't mind. I think a website is key in today's world. You don't need a video, but maybe you have a solution that a video is great to show it or so. Just think about how you present basically your product or your service. I think it is also key to get strategic help, to get to know a lawyer up front before you actually enter conversations with investors and enter a stage where you are now needing to check the term sheet or so. Just have someone reliable at your side, so to speak. You don't need to speak to them all the time, but someone who is not charging you extreme tariffs. It's difficult, but still, but is available. I think that is maybe also it's not the biggest company or firm, but someone that you can trust and that has how to call it, a lot of Hausverstand, because you can also make it very expensive. The whole transactions can look super long pages of contracts, etc. Be complicated, being done in a mindset of fear. What could all go wrong? I mean, yes, there's the lawyers, they are there for that. But there's also lawyers out there if you find, or if you look at the right time for them, that tell you, okay, this is what you need to do, but this is also how you can do it, kind of, yeah, to have an entrepreneurial mentality to the whole thing. And involve people with experience. I would really, I mean, what I said before is something that is key. Talk to other people that have talking to this, have been in relationship or talks with this investor. Talk to any other advisor, consultant, whatever. Just get as smart as you can about the whole process, but also about the specific investors that you are meeting and targeting. There's always a lot of changes that investors want. They see you and they say, great, but we have 10 other ideas. We've seen companies like you have for sure not been the first to invent whatever you have invented. You have invented that is super rare. Usually we see actually companies with similar kind of things very often. So it is also key for investors that the entrepreneurs are not believing that they know it all, even though they need to be know-it-alls at the same time. It's also a difficult balance. But I think that if you can stay flexible and you can show that you can accept changes, if obviously they make sense, that helps. That helps the investor to say, okay, this is a person I can also enter a relationship with because to listen to me, we can have a discussion. Maybe a third solution comes out and not the one that the investor proposes, yes, but kind of have this open mindset. Because what we hear a lot is that investors say, okay, this or that person can't take any feedback. I can't work with such a person. Yeah, and what I think is also very relevant is it takes up, especially if you then do it very, in a hurry, or if you really need a lot of money, it will take up a lot of capacity that you have as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a manager. And you need to also make sure that your daily operations still stay intact, that you actually grow while you go through this fundraising process. And then, of course, if you have a small team, it's super tricky, but you need to make sure that you don't lose focus on your daily business. Because at the end of the day, only looking for money from investors in today's world, it's more tricky than also just getting money from your customers. And yeah, we see that sometimes that gets a bit lost. Obviously, it is sometimes also tricky, but I would want to tell everyone that that's relevant. Yes.
Tips for finding a good lawyer, because I think we're not from Austria.
Yes.
I mean, my colleagues, my co-founders, but it feels like personal relationships are super important.
Yes,
to find this sort of person.
it's all via network, I would say, and I think the best people to talk to is other startup founders or other entrepreneurs. Then there is a couple of companies that actually really position themselves within the startup space. Yes, go there also and check what they have. Sometimes they have rates that are somehow special for startups, but sometimes they also just do a lot and don't really focus. So I think a company, a firm can also be a one person lawyer that might be helpful at the very beginning, so to speak, someone that is reachable. And what is never good to have a huge company in front of you where you might speak to the big lawyers at the beginning, but then because you're a small company, you want special rates or whatsoever, you actually get to talk to the new lawyer, to the kind of young lawyer, which is also fine because you might be driven smart, but sometimes lack the experience that you need this kind of long term. What does whatever clause in my contract, how does it play out in the long run? Yeah. So I think between experience and being worth the money is a tricky balance. But I would really actually talk to the Impact Hub network or such places for the regionality. I don't know if you're in Lyon, I'm sure there is also something at the company. Yeah, okay.
I think from the I2C.
Yeah, and then I would ask anyone, also in the chat, you can talk to each other. This is, I think, really word of mouth. How it's network. It's definitely that. I can't now recommend a person.
Can I share a harsh learning I had with a lawyer?
Yes,
So
please,
people don't
please,
have the
of
same
course,
pay.
the whole session
I was
rides on you guys.
Strongly advised to negotiate a package price with a lawyer because we had the situation where they overcharged us without telling us, and the bill arrived, and then you're like, oh my god, how am I going to pay for this? So like, be really clear with what you're asking from them and how much, because sometimes they like to be cheeky and bill you for a bit more.
Yeah, that's really double check that. We also had a not so nice experience once, even with an investor that with a lawyer that we back then connected out of the Impact Hub network, and then later we received such feedback. So yes, that's something that we've seen also, that some lawyers are not super nice at the end. The same goes for tax advisory, by the way. Every 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever call that you have with them, it's not because they're nice, not they will pay you out.
Is just a question about lawyers. Is there anything that's like reward based for innovation? Because I heard that in the States it's common, like a lawyer gets paid based on the success, what you get out of it. But then I heard that it's legal in Austria to have volksbasierte Honorare for lawyers. Is there, do you know?
It's not know now, anyone else who knows, but I haven't seen it.
I don't think it's allowed. What I know in the States, it's
yeah.
So you would look for shy basically from seeing the whole process, leading you up to completion of the terms.
I heard in Romania about something similar to what you say. So it could be that those two different markets.
Yeah, I have to say I haven't heard that. That would be new to me. Also not how the Austrian, what is really relevant is anyone who has been reading a lot of American literature on startups and how to get funding. It is not how it happens in Austria. That is really a key to understand, that you cannot just take this and say, okay, it's going to be easier here out of various reasons. And that is not only connected now to what you have been sharing, but it's also connected to what you have to bring to the notary or not. So the whole process is just more expensive, for sure. We also don't really have templates available for term sheets or stuff. You might find them, but in the US, you have a lot of templates, just basically download from Y Combinator term sheet template or so, right?
There are some, now.
Yeah. So
I
you
have
can
some.
share some sort, you personally have some, or you share some public sources?
Like both.
Which public sources would you?
From Schönherr, they have a safe template.
Yeah,
And we've modified it for a flex code.
yeah.
So,
And you can download it on their website?
Yeah.
Okay, so Schönherr is actually one of the more prestigious law firms in Austria and Vienna. So then everyone go to Schönherr. Philipp Kinski was, or Herbst Kinski was also one company that was very positioned in the startup field. But I don't want to talk about specific companies actually. But the second reason why fundraising in Austria and in the US is very different is because the capital market just doesn't work here. In the whole European Union, we don't really have a capital market that is compared to the US. So every other next round is going to be more tricky. IPOs are very rare. The stock exchange actually is used as almost and this is why the whole investment game functions a bit different. But we have a lot of public institutions, we have a lot of banks, we have different ways.
Yeah, just a question.
Yes.
If you were to have like an option to choose US investment or investment in Austria, like would you, especially if you know they're going to be like different series A, B, C, D, would you say you start in the US?
I mean, usually, very often we see that companies that fundraise for a next second, third, whatever round, that they go outside of Austria, but depends on their business, where their business. I would not. I think creating the trust between here and there, if you're not actually based there or planning to produce or ship to the US, it's really, I mean, it's tricky. There's time zone differences. You would need to create eventually also a company FS in the US to receive the money, because transferring money from there to here is actually not so trivial in some constellations, I would say, yeah. Some foundations could maybe only found a company that's based there. In fact, yeah, if you plan to go overseas, then for sure go overseas. If your business as such doesn't go overseas, I think it's of use as that's it. I don't know if that helps, but are you planning to go to the US?
Wait. I'm thinking about it, yes.
Yeah. So again, if you will have your service available there, then it might make sense. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Okay, what matters most in the process? I think some things I've already mentioned because I can't not mention them. You know what you really need. That I think is key. A lot of time we see also companies that say we raised 500K, 1 million, I don't know. If you break it down, it actually becomes a bit fluffy or loose. They can't really tell you for what exactly, how they will, what their milestones are, etc. So this really having a very concise understanding of what you are looking for, that is super key. It seems super random to say it, but actually it's also very funny to see how many don't. I talked about the financial plan. What is most relevant there is the assumptions. Sometimes investors want to see actually the whole picture, 3 years, I don't know, but 3 years planned or so, mainly to see where you're heading to, and everyone knows that then stuff changes. But understanding if the whole business model could work out, how long does it take to work out, like estimated at least, yeah. And it is really fine to also provide someone with financial deck, with a financial plan and some comments, or a legend, so to speak, with some assumptions. These are the assumptions we base it on, because the investor anyways wants to check it. So you can actually give much more information than just the exit table. What always, if you really trust, I mean, first, if you really get this trust-based relationship, you might only share some superficial numbers, maybe comprised on a one-page PDF or so. But in the due diligence process and later on, we actually want to see your open exit file, because usually investors take these numbers and put that into whatever system they use to crunch their own numbers, to make their own assumptions about your or predictions about your financials, right? And if someone doesn't want to share with me his or her open PDF, Excel files or not PDF, that is already a bit weird. So you need, but that means you need to have your Excel ready in a shape that you can actually show it to someone else. Yeah?
What do you think about using DocSend or like similar protection mechanisms?
What is DocSend?
It's a way of preventing the investor from downloading or sharing it.
Yeah, the downloading would be an issue. The sharing, I guess you cannot only allow downloading but not sharing. I understand the sharing part, but usually investors don't care so much. They don't really share stuff. So, but if I'm really interested in you, I want to actually be able to download it so I can put it into my thing. What we use, for example, to evaluate, like we have actually our own, not so super sophisticated, but bit of already templified Excel to calculate the valuation that we would actually find reasonable for a startup. And for that, we would need numbers that we can play with in the PDF. It's just not provided.
So I had some feedback on DocSend from the family office.
Yeah.
They said that it's quite useful because, so especially if you send to a lot of investors, because you can see how long they spend on each slide, for example.
Yeah.
So you get insight on how they interact with it.
Yes.
And how often they open it, and you can put password on it. But
exactly.
I think then you would open it for download for those investors which you trust.
Exactly.
But we found a competitor pre-seed deck, like very detailed, on the internet. And there was obviously someone uploaded it, and it must have been someone who they had handed it to. So there is a risk because
of course there is a risk, and it also very much depends on your company. I mean, the risk of whatever you do, copying whatever you do, is high in every stage, right? And I say it depends on the company, because some companies have worked with such sensitive data, or it's such a complicated technology that you really want to prevent anyone seeing it. Also, there might be some cases where also the investor understands it makes sense, but there's a lot of cases where it's not so relevant, where the idea as such, to be honest, is not so unique, and it's really about the execution and the team, and you can't copy that so much or so easily. You know? But what we also do, or what I definitely recommend you to protect your deal room with such a password system, so that you see actually what the investors do with it. That makes a lot of sense for you because you gain information, right?
in NDAs.
Yeah, NDAs. I also have a slide about that. I think it's optional. Depends on your business and on what you want. There's people that think that NDAs are worth a lot. There's people that say NDAs at the end don't really hold in court, so to speak. So maybe it's useless anyways. I think it's a question. Again, how sensitive is your information? If yes, then it's good. It is a protection for sure. It's not uncommon, but again, depends on what it is.
But with an investor relationship, probably at a more advanced stage.
Definitely at a more advanced stage. So, for example, if I open the due diligence room for you as an entrepreneur, you are the investors. In that moment, it would make sense to or if the investor says, I don't know, we want to see specific information, and then we can decide whether we go into the due diligence phase. Then also might be a bit before, right? But that would usually be the timing where I would say this is where it's making sense to have an NDA. But just because you sent me your pitch deck, I would not sign an NDA because we get, I don't know, it doesn't really indicate too much. Some have letter. The same goes for letter of intent. Some people use that to express their interest, or that is, or on some entrepreneurs need it for other investors or for other. That is actually something that I see even more often, because basically you want to show maybe, I don't know, your social banker that match funds the investment or so, and to continue the conversations with the banker while you talk to the investor, and the investor process takes still longer. Maybe you can have such a like something like a letter of intent, so you can So actually we have these talks with this investor also. This is also useful in a way if you want to see if they get more, if you want to test if they are more serious. So to speak, are they ready to sign a mini piece of paper and then they're already a bit more bought in. Or you understand also if you're the investment manager that you talk to says to you then in that moment, I cannot sign. Then you understand, this person is talking to me, it's the front soldier, but has no power. So I need to actually understand who has power in that company, in that organization, and I need to find a way to talk to them because those are the people that will take the investment decision anyway. So for the letter of intent, I think it's useful in terms of that, but that you can also have with a term sheet, you don't need a letter of intent. But actually that also I have planned for later, but yeah, for sure, we can always talk about any questions. If the online people come up with questions, you tell me. Yeah, you learn the investor lingo if you don't speak it yet. I think there's a lot of people in the room, at least the three that I know that I think are aware of it by now, but I've also worked a lot with entrepreneurs that are super specialized in whatever field. And for them, it's all a bit, what is post-money, what is pre-money, what is, I don't know, there's a lot of terms people throw out of you. What is this LOI? That is the letter of intent or so, and the that's the non-disclosure agreement. If you don't know any of these words, you look them up. There's a lot of information over the internet, and just try them out a bit so that you get used to it, and vice versa. It helps investors understand you if you speak their language. It's just simple, right? Yeah. And we have time, like what I really want, what I would wish every entrepreneur is that they have time to get to know their investor. And that you also do a due diligence. I also already mentioned that you actually talk to other entrepreneurs that have been in talks or that have received investment from that investor, or the questions that you prepare to ask to your investor. You really need to think about what you want to know. And I would also recommend if it actually is an investor that gives a meaningful amount of money into your company and gets a meaningful amount of shares for it, that at least you do some social activity together. I don't know, it can be very up to you. It doesn't matter what, and if it's just a lunch. But try to understand this person a bit. How do they behave under stress? That will be very relevant to know. How do they want to receive information? What what are their weak spots or their strong suits? How are they actually holding true to their own commitments? Because some of the investors tell you, we have this network and that network, and you get money, but also so much else. And very often that is then very intangible and very tricky later to hold them accountable for. And this is why I would really recommend to try to understand these people as people, and the organization that they work for, because very often we will talk about investor profiles, but very often you talk to various people and different people take decisions in their organization. And if there's any moment of a red flag, and it's just and might be because this investor is not nice to the restaurant personnel or whatsoever, something that we find really off. Trust. And if you have time and you can be flexible, you can actually walk away. And I would really recommend doing that, like in a normal relationship. Don't run away with a lot of energy and life years on someone who is not worth it. And they might not change, they might get worse, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, the last slide before the break. We talked already about different investors and what different investors we have. You will see the profiles in the people match. 40, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard from you venture capitalists and business angels and banks, kind of, and maybe some public institutions. This is a slide out of an impact investing presentation I'm doing. So you have all the social venture fund and the venture capitalists. They're maybe actually the same. Maybe they're different people. They have the same processes behind it. You have business angels, you have crowdfunding investing, and you have foundations, you have companies, banks. The only relevant differentiator is whose money do they invest, their own money or someone else's money? or even the state's money, the more far away the money is, there's money sources from the person you talk to, the more strict the processes usually are, the more boxes they need to tick and you need to provide information for, etc. And the more they buy into your vision, into your green vision, so to speak, or into your financial. So like first versus finance versus the question. And then the question is also how much do they understand salary gain in general? How much do they understand that it might take a couple of years until it really takes off? Especially if it's a lot of research involved, if it's just a service that you provide, it of course should pay off earlier, but some still don't understand it immediately. Some don't really understand the risk. So you need to also make sure. It might be that you talk to investors who are wannabe investors and that don't really understand what the risk is involved or how it goes on longer, like kind of if there's a crisis or so. And those are questions I would also ask. And they are a bit different depending on where the dimension finance first or impact first or so they are. Okay. I would say we make a break for 5 minutes and we will discuss briefly what we do with the online group. So the online group, you can stay a bit. Everyone else in the room, we can take a break. We meet at 5:25 past 11. And here I will have a look.
In 10 minutes or 5?
I would say in 5 minutes or 7 minutes. It's 7 minutes.
Okay, so we will start at 11:25 again for the online people. See you then.
Is there Are you all?
Kids at school. You happy?
Yeah. We all?
Oh, just on the button.
Yeah, we can yeah, okay. So, everyone back again, also online.
Yes, looks good.
We just talked in a break about how it is the most difficult thing to actually do a hybrid workshop, offline and online, whatever, pure is good. Hybrid is tricky. But we make it happen so everyone who is not in Vienna can also participate, but we can have a physical experience. So we would have a training. I was told in the preparation for this workshop, I should train you like boxers before they fight. And there is no training without actually doing something. So we will also do something, but I will give you still some theory because we are not fully sure if the online part will work. If the online part works, everyone also online can do the training later. And if not, we will say goodbye to the online participants and we will still have a little training here and we will benefit from common presence in this room. So we talked about the different investor profiles and you also see you have already posted here in the room. They are not relevant at the moment, but you can maybe find the names again. I thought this first slide is, it's very technical, as I told you, and it also doesn't really matter. I told you what it is, what are the dimensions of profiles that you find. Why do I say it doesn't really matter? Because you actually talk to people, of course, and people have names. They can be Sissis or Charlies or Günthers or different other names. And who is Sissi? Sissi is a professional investor. She's in Austria, usually a banker or an investment manager, working for a foundation, family office, or working for a VC. It doesn't really matter. They will focus on business models, on financials. You will be one of hundreds of entrepreneurs talking to them. You really need to really stand out. Anyways, in every case, but here really, they want a proven business model with lots of security to tell why they need to convince someone else. And you need to make it possible for them, whatever they ask you, provide the information, tell them if you can't do it immediately, when you can provide, because usually they need that information for something else. Or to be sure that they can actually recommend you, they can be in your position. This is Sissi. Sissi can also be a bit stiff maybe, but it's a likable person. It's also a person who wants to be taken seriously. And there's Charlie. Sissi can also be a man, obviously. Could also be Hans-Jörg. Yeah? And Charlie is a high network individual. He works, he doesn't work for anyone. He is the foundation, or she. Charlie can also be a child, right? Or she is the business entity. That person, I call them the intentional investor. They buy into your vision, also into your financials, and also they really want to make sure that the family money is not getting less, but more. But they also have this intention that you could share with them. We want to see a greener future. We want to see a more social future, whatever that might be. Yeah? They actually could buy into that vision that you have, and therefore they're also eager to be part of it. They are annoying for different other reasons, not because they want to know so much. They also want to know so much, but maybe they want to be part of it too much. Or I think they know it a lot, but actually they don't because they have not been entrepreneurs. However, Charlies can also be ex-entrepreneurs, then they really might know it. And the question is, how do you get them to be an ally or so? So the question really is it earned or inherited? Well, that's good to know. And then I would say there are varying degrees of financial or entrepreneurial experience. Some might be really good in the financials, but not so much on the entrepreneurial, or the other way around, or like both, but have money and think they are meaningful contributors. And then you need to also play with them a game where you make them felt seen, but also not disturbing your shareholder conversations. And then there's Günther. Günther's a good Austrian founder. He has a program to follow. So either you fit or you don't, but it's not up to you to decide, and it's also not about you if he doesn't like you, or if Claudia doesn't like you, if it's a Claudia. And they have strict processes and rules to follow, and you know them, you can read them up. They have not a lot of flexibility. They have lots of reporting requirements, but also sometimes, even though you are not a great entrepreneur, you get money from them because you tick the right boxes. I have to say that I see a lot of entrepreneurs getting money and actually being funded for a long time, and then only when they arrive the private market, they realize not really anyone is interested. Those could be people that you meet actually, and you actually really want to understand who these people are when you meet them. And you have 30 minutes, which is a very short time span. You want to know what your goal is. You will not get investment right away. I think that's very obvious, but I think it's that someone pays you. So your expectation management can only be getting a second meeting, getting a follow-up, getting maybe a business card and an invitation to write them again. And then you have to use this because they will not call you again. You will have to push the relationship until they are part of your crowd, until they are part of your shareholders. You will need to push the relationship. Find out as much as you can about your meeting partners. This is possible by researching. So you will actually see the partners, right? You just need to check out their website. This is really super basic, and I guess you all would do that anyways. But where do you have commonalities? Do you really fit their investor criteria? If you realize not so much, it's actually not the very best match, but somehow you got matched because whatever, someone in the impact type team or wherever well thought you should meet, it might be still a useful meeting because this person for sure knows other people. And then it's more about understanding what else could this person provide you, even if it's not a direct investment from that firm. People usually don't want to be rude and usually don't want to just have a connection and then walk away without whatever. It's a useless spending like time for both of you, so to speak, right? And if you know what else they could provide you with, they might be very happy to write an email and introduce you to this other investor friend that they know who is interested, or to this company that they have worked with or that they know or whatever. And who knows what happens. Introduce yourself, obviously, and a lot of you are now trained to introduce themselves a lot. And I have been in a meeting last year at Green 100 where I have not been asked a single question. So this person, at the end of this 30 minutes, didn't know that we are currently not investing, but still screening because we were preparing a second plan that would have come later. And that information is very key for you at the beginning. You want to know, because if you don't like me, as in point of time, don't hear currently. And you realize after 5 minutes, okay, this person is a bit boring, plus is not able to give me any other connection, then you could save yourself some time and walk away earlier. Obviously, that would be in the worst case. But in the best case, this person has something else to offer. But if you talk about your business and you don't know if the other person is actually willing or able to invest generally, and I want to emphasize that very rare to be asked questions in the investor seat, but it's very normal to do that. You can really ask these people questions. How do you invest? How much do you invest? How do you do follow-on rounds? Do you do follow-on rounds? Who are the other companies that you work with? What have you provided them with? Whatever, normal questions. They would ask you all sorts of questions. So come up with a question set that you want to actually check what is relevant for you as in a partnership with an investor. And I would actually start with, hello, my name is Stefan from Nimes, or Valerie from ValueBike, and this is what we do. Is that a problem that is interesting to you? Is it a solution that you find is relevant? How else, or what, how would I fit into your universe, so to speak? And then it's my turn as an investor to tell you why or not, and we both get smarter. also interesting, try to find out what they are interested in as people, because you never know, that might be a VC. And I had an interesting conversation with a VC for a long time. They also invest in social businesses. We have invested in a company that deals with autism, especially with therapy solutions for kids with autism. And I found out after 3 years that he is the father of a son who has autism. But just really by the way, because we happened to have a conversation while he was in the car going to an appointment, a doctor's appointment. And only then I knew, okay, this company could actually be interesting for this person. Not because it fits the actual criteria written on the website, but because that person is a person interest, right? So again, it's not the banker, but it's Günther, and Sissy has a different name, but everyone in the Impact world knows her, and so on. Yeah, and we talked about have your pitch ready and so on, have your materials ready in the moment of the Green 100. I don't know, this year it's in the Aula der Wissenschaften. I don't know the rooms there, but back then last year it was at Hofburg, and we had meeting tables. We had for sure internet, but I think it was shitty. So have everything downloaded. Have everything kind of in your laptop or tablet if you use that. I'm also fine without. I'm also fine with a leaflet or with a one-pager or whatsoever. I don't really care how long as long as I can follow your presentation, so to speak. If you tell me, yes.
Can I just interrupt you for a second, because that's important. I forgot to say it actually. Miriam mentioned a bit. There could be some of these meetings not taking place exactly physically on the 14th there. So people want to meet you, but they cannot physically come there. So talking about internet, there will be good internet there, and there will be some calls where you can actually have the online meetings if people are available in that time slot. If not, they will be probably earlier available, and we will tell you and you will meet them. So just for you to know, we want the meetings to make the meetings happen in any shape or form. So we thought even if people are flying back to their countries, to Germany or whatever the day before, we still want you to meet them. So there will be maybe some things which are happening.
Yeah.
So maybe take your headphones, noise canceling headphones with you. There will be some of them, some we can share with you, but I think it would be best if you have an online meeting too.
Because some
You
people
will know.
could be there. You could be there physically, but have an online meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah, but you will know before. So you will know before if the meeting takes place physically on the 14th with someone which comes, if it happens a different day, or if it happens then online.
yes. Okay. That is super important information. I didn't know. Obviously, online you have a presentation that you can share. But if it's a physical meeting, it doesn't need to be a presentation. But of course, it makes sense, and it does make sense to say at the beginning we spend 15 minutes on getting to know each other, and then 10 minutes on I walk through my presentation, and then questions and how do we follow up. This is how I would spend the 30 minutes. If you have, I know that Paperlab was before it is online, and I've seen the products of Paperlab. If you have a leaflet or a Velo bag, that actually shows your product, that's of course beautiful. Something that is, I'm a very visual person. I love to have something tangible. I will take it with me. I will at home look at it and then throw it away or not, whatever it happens, but it will stay with me a bit longer. Yeah. If you don't have an actual product, please don't print it, because you don't need to have stuff printed. Then the question is, do we actually still have business cards in today's world or not? But something that is actually giving your contact details right into my phone, or you give me a business card. But give me something that I can reach out to you, even though for sure I will not, and you have to reach out to me. But who knows, maybe the next day I wake up with a thought and I want to reach out to you. If I can't, or need to go back into the B2 match. Sorry if I say that, but no one really likes it. And I mean, everyone loves it and everyone needs it and so on and so forth. But around the event, outside of the event, you will not really take. I mean, now you have this community app, and maybe it will change things. But so far, usually I have a lot of B2B match apps from every Impact Days, which I'm not opening it up throughout the year. I mean, anyways, how it works.
You have LinkedIn, right? So the idea is
Exactly. So I love to connect on LinkedIn, because there I find people also. But I can't remember the first name or the company's name or the face or whatsoever. There is no rule that is right or whatever, but basically help me understand what you do, help me follow whatever you tell me, because for example, if you would tell me about your alternative way to make kerosene, I'm like, wow, that's interesting, because I know kerosene is a real issue, but I really have no clue about it. Whatever you will tell me, I guess I will need something to help me listen for you. Yeah, and prepare the Q&A. This is something that a lot of people forget. Or you get questions, right? And you get questions all the time. You know what people don't understand about their business. Keep a Q&A, start to prepare it if you don't have it, and come up with answers that are easy for other people to understand, and you can repeat the shit out of it, so to speak. No matter how boring it is for you, and your new investor connection, so to speak, will not be bored and will be happy to receive a very smart, simple answer. And I would actually read that could be an exercise that you do always. And also at the end of the day, when you met a lot of people, what I have been asked, did I have a good question? If you don't, did I have a good answer? Sorry, if I don't have a good answer right away, it's very fair to say, let me check that, I will get back to you. And if you get back to me, I will find you super reliable, even though you didn't answer the question the first time. I mean, it depends, of course, what type of question. If you don't know how much money you burn each month, I would say you don't really have your stuff in order, because you are maybe the executive director and you should need to know, right? If you have a company that is 100 people big and you have a CFO, it might be okay, but usually that's a number that you should know. But it might be okay not to know the competitor in the Czech Republic of your company. So yeah, I mean, think about what it would be good. Well, obviously, I don't know if I come up with good examples now on the spot, but basically you understand what I'm trying to submit, right? And and this is generally speaking also good for the due diligence room. That's what I wanted to say. Very often we have actually there's a FAQ sheet or so in the due diligence room, that makes sense. So if I have a specific question, I can check if you have answered it there already, because you might have had it in your pitch deck or your financials or whatever, but I miss it there. And then I can actually, as an investor, just check if you have that, and that is super nice. And if you kind of use it as a living document, it's also not a lot of hassle. I think to do it for yourself. Good. This is how you prepare for your meetings. Is there anything else that you learn in your meetings that I didn't mention that you find useful, or any moment where you said, "Oh, I should have done that better," and that could have been avoided? Is there any stories, any war stories that you can share with us? Also, maybe online. I don't know if the online crowd is still with us.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, but are there still people?
They're still here, but
Okay.
they don't have something to say.
Yeah, good.
But please don't hesitate.
I was asked a couple of times, how can I help you? How can I help you? You know, just a simple question, and then taken aback because I was just thinking of funding. You know,
Yeah.
it actually does so much more sometimes. So knowing the person.
Yeah, and then what would you say? How can they help you without help? So
Yeah, anything really, like networks or introductions or suppliers, whatever.
Yeah, but this really refers to what I said before. Is people usually want to be nice, right? Yeah. There's a book which is called "In Wonderful." Usually, people are cooperative. Exactly. How could they help you? Is actually a good question that you should be able to answer. Good. What are the key elements of your pitch presentation? Everyone here created their pitch, as you, and I hope you followed whatever structure. I like the Kawasaki structure. As I said, you can follow whatever else structure. What is relevant is that you have the following things answered. What's the problem? What's your unique solution? How do you make money? What's the business point? Why now? Why should you invest now? What do you do it now? And why you? And what's the deal for you as an investor or partner or whatever? People that you ask stuff for. And then it doesn't really make any difference how you call it, but you should answer that. And we'll go into it into more detail. What's the problem? very often in the green finance field or in the social impact field, we see the problem is climate change is destroying the planet. This is why some plastic cups that are recycled. Or the picture shows a lot of factories that have a lot of smoke and really ugly picture. This is why I don't know, I produce bottles out of glass. I've seen so many funky, what's the problem? And they all are very fearful and so on. Formulate, please, a specific problem. I have a very specific solution, usually as an entrepreneur. So also, what is the solution answering? Which problem is it answering? And be there very specific. For example, what could Stefan, I'm just picking up on you because I know a bit, it provides a solution to the problem that there is a lot of second-hand clothing, but not a good way to sort it out. And here we can, of course, I don't know, you pitch it better, but it's not textile waste is destroying the whole planet, even though that also is true.
I think the thing that we got feedback from a lot of impact investors is that impact doesn't actually matter. And just talk about the money, like no one cares.
Yeah.
So like it's a brutal reality, but this came from like a well-known impact investor in Austria. And he was like, look, I get it, but this business is never going to scale unless you make a lot of money. So tell me how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
The problem that we have is selling secondhand stuff is hard. Like we focus a lot on the actual specific problems, like writing a description, like having to think about what you're selling, whether it's, and if you're like a Red Cross or a Caritas or a Humana, to do that 10,000 times a week is totally crazy. But in our pitch deck, we only very lightly touch on the high level problem.
Yeah. And that's why the high level problem is not so relevant, but the very specific problem is relevant, because this is where you create actually questions, what pain are you solving, right?
Then can I just interject here, because it's I think this is an example which is relevant for everyone more or less in the room. Are we talking impact or are we talking money, right, and scaling? Because the way you lead a tech pitch or a tech startup, the pitch of a tech startup is kind of clear, right? The way you lead an impact, and we have some impact, right? The CO2 impact or anything, everyone in Green 100 is a different story. So everyone is thinking at some point, do I go impact, do I go scale? And I actually think that you can go both, and you don't need to, just say money or just say impact. I think you can talk about, yes, the idea behind it is to scale impact, but to scale impact, I need to talk about money, because if I don't have the money, if I don't grow, I'm not going to reach that impact, right? Yeah. So I think you can really bundle the two messages, because now talking opportunistically about people that they will meet, there will be people which are into the tech field and they want to show me the money, right? To look at the money, right? But there will be impact investors. Yeah. There's impact investors, and a lot of them, which in their thesis, they look at the theory of change and everything else. If they don't talk about it, they will not talk to you at the end of the day, right? So I think you have to cover both at the end, to some degree.
Yeah, but you don't need to cover both here in what's the problem and such in that section, so to speak, but you have to have, but I would also agree to both methods. And we see, for example, in the startup monitor of Austria from, 2023 or so, that more than 50% of all startups in Austria consider themselves being green or sustainable businesses, even though they don't consider themselves being social enterprises also. So I think the differentiator on the impact or green side is becoming less big in a way. At the same time, that's a good trend, right? We actually want to see businesses that are on green things. But a lot of the times investors actually will not talk to you if you don't have answers within their ESG framework or their ET framework or their impact framework. Some just follow it by their heart, so to speak, right? Some of these Charlies out there, these high net worth individuals, they don't really consider themselves being impact investors, but they look for something that fits, I don't know, their family values or whatever it is. And And how I would solve it is I would just always talk about the difficult stuff that I do, but never at the cost of not talking about money or business models or go-to-market strategy or anything. That is just the most key, is that we have all these things in place because they are in whatever you want to achieve, right? So that's so much about the problem. But also you can just talk about your solution, just explain the problem a bit later. You don't need to generally start with the problem slide. But if you have it, which is fine, if it's very specific and concrete and not super random, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Because you lose the why is it so really so important that you don't start this with a high expectation and then you lose me being a super granular product provider or whatever, which is great as such. Just then the balance is not the right. So show your product or solution. How does it work? How do you know it really works also at scale? Or maybe you don't know yet that it works at scale because you only produced 100 pieces and not a batch of 1 million pieces or so. Then that's fine. And you show where you are in the journey of product development. Just be very realistic or clear where you are. What's innovative about it, and also very important, what is the traction that you have, who has tried it, who bought it already, how is it actually in terms of numbers, right? How does it create money later on? And what's innovative about it, you will tell me, I guess. There, it also is really important that you are aware of your own competition or substitutes or whatsoever. Because a professional investor is for sure aware, because they will have seen other companies pitch similar things. Maybe not in the same year, maybe not the same year, maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago. Maybe they are super fed up with it because they have seen 10 decks in the same area. You really need to make me understand, and why would I listen to the 11th time that someone showed me the recycled cups or the, I don't know, top integration of refugees with building furniture or whatever the fuck it is. Coffees. Now you are more in the sophisticated green energy field than the 10th solar panel roof constructor or so, yeah. But this could come to mind now. But why are you unique enough? And how do you make money? That is the question. Do you all know how you make money? I'm asking now in the room. I don't know it. Do you know how your units, whatever you sell, costs? Yes. You know the actual price. You try it and test it, then you're super advanced. Because a lot of startups are actually still understanding how they really make it. What the cost actually is that the customer is able and willing to pay, etc. And then great if you can show me this is the price, it is feasible for people will buy it. And then also the question is, who is preventing you from making money? Laws, regulations, competition. What is hindering? What risks are involved, basically? But how will you circumvent it, and how will you grow your business? And or also, what do you need? Because how to grow your business definitely will depend on the cash resources you have available, but maybe also other resources. And this is also maybe where the how can I help question actually comes in. Maybe it's connections, maybe it's partnerships with big OEMs or whatever it is. Yeah?
In a competition, would you always have a slide where you name like 5 biggest competitors and you check mark basically how it's different?
Yeah, that is the common way, I would say. I'm also fine with a matrix where you basically show me here in the dimension kind of this is the field where we play in. It can also be analogs. People don't do that yet because it's so innovative, but they do something similar. So it could also actually not be competition, but could also be interesting to make me to show kind of in what space are you in, so to speak. Yeah. How you present it to me, it doesn't matter, but I will check if you have the ones there that I know, right? You don't know, of course, who the investor is, but you can't not say someone that's obviously in the market.
So you would name brands and you would say generally how you're different, like you name the three key differences to all the other brands, you would
I
actually
mean,
name
if
the
we go back
brands.
to obvious question now, obvious, maybe not very smart question, how are you different to Crompton? How are you different to whatever other foldable bikes? How are you different to other electric bikes? Why is made in Austria? Is it selling or not? I don't know. Is it actually just making the production more expensive? I don't know. I would try to answer this obvious question. Helpful? How do you show your?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is like, with the folding bike was simple, I could do a matrix bike for the brands, but now we expanded our range of different types of bikes. So then, the other sphere area of bikes were different competitors. It becomes more complicated. So then I use a general power, what is our DNA type of thing, rather than having in that segment of the bike where these, in that segment of the bike where these competitors, and that.
Yeah, the question is there other bike manufacturers with a wider range? That there are, right? If
Folding bike is very niche. So there are
folding
people
bike
that have like
the electric bike is nothing.
yes, but as I say, like, the folding bike is obviously probably just as folding bikes, right? Then we have many who just do folding bikes and then fewer that.
Yeah, but the question, for example, would be why wouldn't the others enter exactly the segment that you are in? So the question would be, you might be successful in the Austrian market. What is it? One of the companies that does mean somewhere else enters the Austrian market, would it be easy for them or not? That could already be a question. Why is Crompton not having electric bikes? They don't want to, they cannot. I don't know, whatever is smart answer. I would try to still understand how do I compare as a company, not only on a product level, right? I guess is then the question, because basically that's why I'm not selling anymore your product X, but your company. Yeah, why now and why you? This is going into the same direction as we talked. But this is also the moment where you talk about yourself, why is your team great? What type of expertise do you have? Either it is you have run a lot of companies and now this is your 10th company and you will also be able to run this, but you have a lot of sector expertise. You have studied that forever and now you make a spin out or whatever the heck it is, what makes you the right people and your team, and why is it also bulletproof? Because what we see, or why are you super invested yourself as the founders at least? Yourself, I talk always on the founder level, yeah? Company employee can change, of course, but I also want to make sure as an investor that this is a committed team. And for example, what I would ask also at the beginning is, if you're early, I would ask, how do you live at the moment? Do you live from your company or from whatever other job that you have? It is fine to still have a different job until your company works, but what would then the plan be to go fully in or whatever? But as long as you're not fully in, I cannot. And you don't need to hide whatever information because that is more or that is worse, so to speak, but then have a plan ready if not. Here in the room, I think you are all already more advanced, but that's something that some startup founders still need to actually make happen, that they can fully live from their own startup. And that's why I mentioned it. So then obviously, what's the deal? What resources do you want? What is the ask that you have from me? How can I help you? What do you give to me in return? This is also a question regarding money or regarding shares, but can also be returning impact. So I don't know, 100 schools think with, I don't know, and a return on investment of whatever, 4%, I don't know, and so on. And also, if you have if you are actually trying to come up with a round of more investors at the same time, or that includes different pieces of capital, then this is also the moment where you basically show me what is the picture. I need 500K from private investors. I want 2 or 1, and then I will match it with some bank money that is happening very often. So now, here we are already in what's next. We talked a bit about that NDA and LOI, when does it come? The terms come in the moment that we really enter actual negotiations, and this is also where you test a lot. And then only at the end when you sign everything, this is the shareholder. Now, how many people do we have online?
At the moment, we have 21 people online.
Okay, people online, are you with us? Are you awake? Are you alive? Or are you
Just
cooking your lunch?
Just
Next
react
slide.
some kind.
Send an icon.
I guarantee you, half of them are on the toilet.
Or whatever.
Three of them are here.
Everyone who is online and willing to participate fully, actively with a
sounds good.
camera open and the mics ready, you should show us your face now, please. Then you can go on the gallery.
I can stop sharing, or do you need a presentation?
I will need the presentation, yeah.
Gallery mode.
Because we talk very theoretically and very dry and so on and so forth.
No.
And it's painful for me because I know some of you know that, but maybe it's good to have heard it again. What I would like you to do actually is that I would like to do a really exercise. What is happening here? Are people funny now that they show
Sorry.
faces?
I just put some stuff on.
We are fun. And I would like to make a short exercise. It's the boxing training, and it's also the thing about the investor types thing. Here, and then we will make sure that the online group is also following, and if not, then doesn't matter for us here in the room now. You received the post-it. So you are the twins of CC or Charlie. And Michaela, who is Charlie again? Stefan, person is this. Do you think they can know how this person could think and ask questions? Yes. Yes. Any one of you comfortable or not comfortable with CC Charlie? Is that? Okay. Then what we do now, we have an exercise for half an hour. And then we finish up and we can maybe a little bit earlier. But I want to have you in groups. You for sure are different groups. Every pair
No, there are
has
only
15
15 people.
minutes to discuss one case. And the listener is Sisi, Charlie, or Günther. And then we will switch. And we have 15 minutes to discuss the other case and the entrepreneur goes individually. Okay? Stefan, now you have to.
That's the
Be
pay
with us.
attention. Okay, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, I think you can do it.
It's hard.
It's not so hard. So we will get up. Form pair. We will do it now.
Okay, so now.
Counting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Stefan, what number are you?
2. I'm here.
Actually, that doesn't work. It's just
So I stop the sharing now, okay?
Yeah. Whatever, you can form pairs, you're adult people. You can always go together. Maybe if you don't know each other, that would be preferred, but if you know each other, also can.
Okay.
And to split, and then you have 15 minutes to discuss Edelweiss and the investor is Günther or the other way around. That is clear, right? Yes?
Okay, so online people, Christina posted a new link there because there were technical